D tier, we have two builds which
All right.
don't really capitalize on any of the
Is
benefits.
that a
of the
chainsaw as a
shark
mouth?
class.
What is that?
First is the Nurse Shark. Low mobility, sedentary
That's,
playstyle,
I mean, that's
and a really
self-explanatory.
weak bite. Instead of abusing the
They're
powerful
nurses,
kit
they just,
available
you
for
know,
shark classes, nurse sharks rummage around
they're
the ocean floor
pacifists.
looking for easy XP. However, they do have the strongest suction force of any fish, and since they don't have many terrible matchups, they're definitely
So
no
how would
F
they
tier.
be at the bottom of the tier?
Second in D tier, we
they're the
have the
strongest.
Saw Shark. Saw Shark players. what
How
are you
is this
doing?
at the bottom of the tier
Teeth
list?
are
Just
some
look
of the
at
best
that.
weapons in the game, and the only drawback to using them is that breaking them can ruin your playthrough. But sharks have replaceable teeth, so that weakness is completely
It does look
nullified.
pretty fragile.
So why did you opt for this goofy, cumbersome, impractical weapon setup?
Yo,
C tier,
it even has the
we've got all
mouth.
the sharks that decided they'd rather AFK their entire game instead of making use of the best tools available.
That's like a
to sharks.
Pokemon on the right.
This
What is
includes
that?
The basking shark, whale shark, and any other shark who thought filter feeding was a better idea than being a swimming doom machine. Yes, it may be easy if you make it to the late game.
Yo,
but
if
without
I
good weapons
imagine you just
and low
dip your head
mobility,
under the water and you
majority
see
of your
that.
playthrough is a huge risk, with mobile fish players like the marlin and sailfish having no problem taking you out. Now we're in B
Imagine
tier,
seeing
and
that
we're
action.
almost to the shark builds who know how sharks are meant to be played.
B tier?
Almost. But first, we've got two more unorthodox builds. Some
Alright.
of my personal favorites, actually.
Hmm.
The first is a shark who decided that, despite being one of the smallest of its kind,
Is that an
it
eel?
would attack the largest builds in the game. The cookie cutter shark.
Is that his
Cookie
real
cutter
name?
sharks are unorthodox in that instead of going for the predator playstyle, they function as a parasite. They simply latch
Like the
onto a
thing from
whale
The
or
Walking
other
Dead?
massive player, and by twisting
The
themselves
Last
back
of
and
Us?
forth, they steal a cookie-shaped bite right off. This doesn't do much damage
Wha-
to players, but interestingly, this build was a secret among the Shark Guild up until a
Oh.
few cookie cutter players accidentally
It just
attacked
recently got
human
released?
submarines and actually caused their sonar to malfunction. This was during the Cold War, so the Russians and Americans assumed that the other was somehow
Well, they've only been out for
sabotaging
like
their submarines.
40 years.
Until eventually a Soviet
30,
sub
something like that.
surfaced with a shark player still latched on. In B+ tier, we have a shark which uses one of the only AoE stun moves seen in the entire game, the Thresher Shark. Attacking a school of fish is difficult, and due to their advanced evasion and diversion tactics, you have to be fast, lucky, or clever in order to even catch a single fish.
Sounds about right.
That is, unless you can hit them with a flashbang, which is essentially what
What?
Thresher Sharks do. Thresher Sharks have tails as long as the rest of their body, and they use them as a whip, creating shockwaves which stun small groups
What?
of fish, negating their normally excellent evasion.
That thing was
ability.
fast
They do
too.
all of this without deviating too far from the great base stats of the
Now, that's
shark,
pretty balanced.
so they retain decent mobility and
'Cause it has
attack
low
power
HP.
while wielding this weapon. In A tier, we finally get to those famous core shark builds everyone knows,
Let's do
loves,
it.
and fears.
Great Wark is definitely
It's hard to
I
rank
just say
these
Great
in
Wark?
relation to each
Great
other
Shark
because
is
they're
definitely
all just so
S tier.
darn great.
100%.
We'll start with the tiger sharks. Tiger sharks have higher stealth than most of the well-known
Oh my
shark
God.
builds, and also
This
have
thing is not
uniquely
balanced.
shaped teeth that make them more effective at cutting through armor and bone. Similar to actual tigers, the main strategy of a tiger shark is to get close to its target with stealth, and then use a quick burst of speed to snatch it before it can react. On the opposite end of the spectrum from this strategy, we have the Mako shark, which has the highest
Mako from
mobility of
Yu-Gi-Oh?
all the sharks, and uses this to chase down its targets.
So that's why
This
it's called
playstyle
Mako, huh?
requires a lot of stamina, so this build breaks the mold and opts for warm
Faster
blood
stamina
instead of being
regeneration?
cold-blooded like most other fish. This gives the Mako shark the benefits of fast stamina regeneration, allowing it to keep up a pursuit longer than
Okay.
most other hunters. Since the speed comes at a cost to size, it doesn't quite have the monstrous weight advantage over
Look at its
targets.
mobility.
And so Mako players need to be careful and not get too greedy. The ocean's other
It spent
premier
all its
speed
attributes
demons,
on
the
mobility.
swordfish
My
and marlin,
goodness.
can be tough matchups for them. At the top of A tier, we have the bull shark, which has two unique and powerful abilities.
Yo,
The
I
first
haven't
is
heard
that
of
they
most of
have
these
the
sharks.
highest bite force
To be
of any
honest, I
shark,
didn't even know there were this
meaning
many
that
sharks.
even though they have pretty average teeth in terms of slicing and cutting utility, they can still deliver an extremely potent bite. The ability is that bull sharks can enter freshwater servers without receiving the energy sapping and damaging debuff that obligate saltwater builds do.
So they're bilingual.
This allows them to travel into rivers and streams where they
Is
have
that in a
no
pool?
real competition.
Wait, what is that?
This makes bull sharks the best build for griefing low-level players. And judging by the bull
No, that's
shark's
OP.
reputation for
I
being
can't
the
lie.
most aggressive shark, it's clear that this is exactly the type of player that this build attracts.
It doesn't have the
And
little
here we
limit
are,
where
the
like
head honchos of the Shark Guild.
if you're a higher
There's
level
two
you can't
builds
get in the
here that
world.
occupy
You
low
can
S
get
tier.
it can get
And
into any
honestly,
world.
I can't place one above
crazy.
the other. They're both just awesome. What makes them so excellent
Come on,
is
go
how
to S
well they
tier.
use
Come on,
their
come on, come on.
tracking abilities, blood sense, and electroreception. The great white shark is no doubt
Oh, it
the
has a
most
mini
feared
so it
ocean
has like a
build in the
permanent
current meta,
UAV.
and the closest thing to the god tier megalodon still in existence. They pretty much just take everything that makes sharks so strong and push all of those things to their limit. They don't have as high bite damage as the tiger or bull shark, but the force of
doesn't
a
matter.
great white's charge attack slamming into their target more than makes up for it,
Yes,
and usually
sir.
takes the stock no problem. Hunting seal players is difficult because they're clever and try to avoid putting themselves at risk when they don't need to.
And they're fast.
This is why the great white's ability to see above water is so crucial, because they can see which islands and reefs their targets are hiding on. And
Other
camp
sharks
them
can't
out.
do that?
Their blood sense ability is through the roof, and their electroreception ability is quite polished as well.
What
But
does
nowhere near
electro
to the
work?
extent of the
There's
last
another
build
one
on
in S tier?
list, the Hammerhead. Now, if you
Oh,
aren't a
I was
Hammerhead
wondering where
player,
that
I'm willing
was.
to bet that when you look at this build, you think the player fell asleep during character creation and accidentally set eye width.
No,
to
that's
the
for a
max.
reason.
But if you think this option is purely aesthetic and not intentional, you couldn't be more wrong.
I knew it was for a
Hammerheads have
reason.
the best,
Tell me why, though.
most well-optimized sensory abilities in the game. They have full panoramic vision and have
What?
binocular eyesight ahead and behind them, which gives them a massive
They're like
accuracy
insects
bonus
with
on
their
the
eyes,
attack,
like
and a
chameleons.
huge evasion bonus if they're being chased. With the chemo and electroreceptors on the front of their face, they essentially have 3D
Whoa.
smell and 3D electroreception, putting their spatial awareness almost as high as
Nah, that's
dolphins and
OP.
bats.
I did not know hammerheads
Their
were built like
snout
that.
shape also lets them turn on a dime, which makes it so their attacks almost
Get the
never
stingray
miss.
for Steve Irwin.
Furthermore, while they don't hunt together, they do travel in schools, providing safety in numbers and causing
No, that's scary. I
intimidation
can't lie.
debuff on pretty much the entire surrounding area. So that's
What's
the
that?
tier list for the Sharks. As you can see, they're an amazing
That was
class
very
with a
interesting,
lot
I
of
can't
useful
lie.
abilities